All right. Well, welcome everybody to today's episode. We're super excited because we're going to touch on some topics that will impact everybody. This is definitely one of those things that do at some point impact everybody. And there are some things that you need to know. And that may be down the road or maybe right now, but at some point, this is something to stick in your back pocket when it comes to your financial planning. I'm your co-host today, John Solitro, and with me, my co-host today is David Deaton, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, David?
Hey, John. Doing great, man. Doing great. Looking forward to doing this podcast more in the future. And you're absolutely right. Medicare fits into people's financial plans one way or another. And I'm happy to be here to talk about it.
Super. Good. I'm excited because this is again one of those topics that I bet changes all the time, and yet everybody needs to know and stay on top of those changes. And can you start just by telling us about yourself? What got you into this? How long have you been doing this? Where you located? Any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I started Mid-Michigan Medicare back in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. Actually, I had been insurance licensed back in 2015 and kind of had a false start into
Okay.
it. I had a full service Farm Bureau agency, and it kind of chewed me up and spit me out. So
Sure.
went home and got a job,
Okay.
and had kept my insurance license up. And when the pandemic came, the job that I had went away. During that time, like a lot of people, I had a chance to reevaluate my life, and I had thankfully kept my insurance license up to date. A friend of mine had been encouraging me to get back into insurance and do Medicare, which is actually right before I had that Farm Bureau agency where I started. Medicare fits me. Everything that I've done, like in my life thus far, in like work, has been service oriented. I was in ministry for 20 years vocationally before this, and it was always ministry and something else. But I believe that work has to say something about who you are.
Okay.
And I've always been like dedicated to serving people.
Yeah.
So, looking at the Medicare space, what I saw was a lot of people who were being misguided. TV commercials, Jimmy Walker and Joe Namath and every all those people. They're kind of a little bit of bait and switch tactics,
hmm
and this demographic is vulnerable.
Sure.
And so looking at all that and seeing an opportunity to serve and do something that fits who I am and my character, I took all of that stimulus money and
Uh-huh.
all of the unemployment money that I had and
Attaboy.
tax return money and everything, and bouncing off of the experience that I had before in insurance, gave myself some runway to get this thing off the ground. And thank God it
Yeah.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're pushing 4 years now.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um, Doing that. Fantastic. And what do you like about what you're doing?
Boy. I'm an like eclectic person,
Yeah.
and it scratches my itches. Some days I am still a pastor. Some
hmm
days I'm a marketer. Some
Sure.
days I'm a business person. Some days I'm a traveler. But what I love is when I get to sit down with somebody. Usually their stress level is up to here
Okay.
because they've been inundated. People get information fatigue. And there really is a lot of information out there. You can't in Medicare, I mean, you can't shake a stick and not hit some information about Medicare.
Yeah.
But what I found that people need, as much as they need information, is they need somebody to talk to,
Yeah.
somebody who knows what they're talking to, that they can, they've got my phone number. All my clients do. So everybody knows how to get a hold of me. So my favorite thing is watching some of that stress that was up here just melt away.
hmm Okay. So we may have young doctors listening to this podcast. We may have seniors that are already retired listening to this. Um, Give us for anybody like who has no idea, tell me about Medicare like I'm eight.
Okay.
What is
Right.
Medicare?
Yeah. So Medicare is the federal health insurance program designed for retirees, but also people who, if you are under the age 65,
hmm
you can get Medicare if you've got certain disabilities. If you've
Yep.
been on SSDI for 24 months,
Okay.
or, kidney disease, some special circumstances, but mainly it's for people who are turning 65.
Okay.
We've been paying into the Medicare system our whole lives, and so Medicare provides at least a chassis on for our health insurance at age 65. Covers hospital and medical services, and it doesn't cover everything. There are quite a bit of exposures, but
Yep.
at its core, basically it's 80-20 insurance. So you pay
Okay.
20%, Uncle Sam steps in and pays 80 for most medical services. If you go to the hospital, it's a copay of around $1,600, maybe a little bit more than 1,600, but that
Okay.
number fluctuates every year.
Okay.
Mhm.
And has it always been 65?
Yep, age 65.
Did they ever
Yep.
talk about changing that, pushing that back like they do Social Security?
There's rumors. There's rumors about expanding Medicare for sure, and they've talked about lowering it to 60. They're talking about lowering it to 62. They've talked about Medicare for all. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but the landscape and how things look right now is it looks like Medicare is going to be like it is for the foreseeable future.
You mentioned something that we've all paid into it. What does that mean? So if somebody's like, why, what do I have to do with Medicare? Why, how am I paying into Medicare?
If you look at your paycheck, there'll be an area on there that says Medicare. Mm-hmm. Whether you're self-employed or employed by somebody, we're paying into that system. Now, what we get for that when we turn 65 or whenever we get on Medicare is we get our Part A insurance at no cost, and Part A is our hospital coverage.
Okay.
So it comes at no monthly premium, is what I mean by no cost. Part B does have a premium associated with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that number changes every year. But this year it's $174.70 a month.
Oh, for everybody, no matter what.
That's the base. There are
Okay.
some people, like if you're earning more, you get what's called IRMA, which is
Oh,
the
that's
income
nice.
related monthly adjustment amount. Yeah. If you earn more, Uncle Sam thinks you should pay more. Yeah.
Sure. Sounds, I hear him say that a lot.
Right.
And so Medicare, is this something somebody can just, so really before 65, if they're not disabled, it doesn't necessarily, there's nothing they have to do other than,
Correct.
pay into it, which is automatically done if they're an employee. If you're
Mhm.
self-employed, again, that's part of something that your CPA is going to tell you, hey, here's how much you need to pay in every quarter or whatever.
Right.
Do you know by chance how much people pay in? Is it a straight percentage? Does that change with income as they're working?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I know
It's
that changes a lot.
yeah. That's definitely a question for your CPA.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I don't even know. I
don't
know
have
there's,
number on
so
hand.
FICA's what, 7.65% for the employee, another 7.65 or about 15.3% if you're um, self-employed. And I think that's basically Social Security and Medicare all wrapped up in there. So how much that breaks down, I couldn't even tell you, but just thought I'd throw you a zinger. Um,
Thanks.
so then 65 comes. Do people get like notices? Hey, it's you're 65, you can have Medicare, but you don't have to. It's like offered if people already have insurance. Like, how
Mhm.
do those details work? And I talk to, even my young physicians that we work with, and to think about as they're thinking about retirement, because I'll sit with a 35-year-old and we'll plan for retirement or make a goal. And I say, okay, and I've learned over the years now I can't just say, what's your retirement goal? And they say, I don't know. I don't know. What age do you want to retire? I don't know.
Mhm.
How much income do you need to retire? I don't know. Okay, I get that.
Right.
Um, so, and a lot of them will say, tomorrow. I'm like, okay, but seriously. But one of the big things that I do say is they'll say, okay, well, I know right now, my house will be paid off and student loans will be paid off. That's a big one for our doctors. What could I possibly have for bills? Maybe 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month. Great. Okay. But I do often throw in, hey, health insurance is probably one of the most expensive costs in retirement.
Yeah.
Do you find people have private insurance or other stuff besides Medicare so they don't have to get Medicare? Like, how does that process go?
When you turn 65, if you're collecting Social Security already, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be automatically and passively enrolled into Medicare Parts A and B.
Ah, okay.
if you're not collecting Social Security, you have to proactively enroll in it at age 65 if you want it. Now, there's a couple of reasons why people might not want Medicare when they turn 65. Actually, one reason, the biggest reason, is because they already have insurance through their employer.
And they're still
so
working.
If they're
yeah.
Correct, they're still working, or they maybe even through their spouse's employer. I find a lot of people who are spouses are teachers.
They've got retirement benefits even,
they've
right?
got retirement. Correct. Yes. So if you're already working, you're getting insurance through your employer. And there's one caveat: your employer has 20 or more employees. It makes it what's called creditable coverage for Medicare. So you don't have to get a Medicare plan then, or you have an employer-sponsored plan, like the teachers unions or the UAW or something like that. But even with those employer-sponsored plans, you still have to get enrolled in Medicare Parts A and B.
So even with those plans, you have to get enrolled.
With the employer-sponsored Medicare plans, yes. Not if it's just regular group coverage through your employer. And there's a difference.
So the creditable coverage you're saying are the employer-sponsored Medicare plans.
Creditable coverage would be a group plan through an employer.
That you're still working. Okay, so when you say employer-sponsored Medicare plan, is that assuming somebody's retired but has, or they've just turned 65 and transitioned to this employer-sponsored Medicare plan?
Right. Usually it's part of their retirement package.
Okay.
So take a UAW worker for instance. They've retired. They've turned 65. They're not working anymore, so they're not in the group plan. But now they're on an employer-sponsored Medicare. It's basically a Medicare Advantage plan on steroids.
Okay. So explain a Medicare Advantage plan. What does that mean?
So with original Medicare, there's a lot of exposure. Like I said, it's 80-20 coverage essentially. But the downside of it is that there's no max out of pocket. So that 20% you could pay to infinity. Not a big deal if all you're doing is going to your primary, right? But that, it covers all, outpatient services, that 20%. So, if somebody's getting chemotherapy treatments or, some surgeries that are outpatient surgeries, that 20% can add up.
Okay.
And so there are two ways to mitigate those costs, either with a Medicare supplement plan or a Medicare Advantage plan.
Gotcha.
The difference is a supplement rides along with original Medicare. So it's basically an open network like original Medicare is. There's no network. And it's self-directed care, right? You go to the doctor when you want to go to the doctor. You don't when you don't, right? And the supplement essentially picks up what original Medicare doesn't.
Gotcha.
A Medicare Advantage plan is more of a managed care plan. It works like a traditional HMO or PPO, like we've always had, with where you go in to see your primary, and then you get referrals, and you can get an HMO network or PPO network, just like the traditional health insurance that we've always had. It's managed by a private insurance company now, a Medicare Advantage. So instead of being on original Medicare, maybe you have a priority health plan or a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan.
Okay, so there's not one insurance company that manages that for the whole world. It varies. Okay.
There's one that wants to, I'm sure, but no.
Maybe, yeah. Then if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you don't have to have Medicare. Is that right?
You do have to have original Medicare. It's just that they used to call Medicare Advantage Medicare replacement.
Yeah.
Because what you do essentially is you give a private insurance company the right to manage your Medicare for you.
Who are you paying though your premiums to?
And this is a kind of a rough view of it. You still pay your Medicare premium to Uncle Sam, and then Uncle Sam takes that premium and other funds that they had allocated towards you and pays that to whichever private insurance company that you are enrolled with.
And it's the same price. It's that 174 or whatever.
Correct. Right.
Why wouldn't I do that versus normal Medicare with the Medigap supplement or whatever you said before?
Yep. Because it's more restrictive than original Medicare. Okay. Um, on original Medicare, it's open network. Any doctor or hospital in the United States who accepts original Medicare will also accept your supplement plan. And really, we know how Uncle Sam spends money.
Uh-huh.
So they
I've heard the
although
term drunken sailor. Is that the
that's exactly right. Yes.
okay?
I was in the Navy, so I
Okay,
get
fair
that.
enough. Yep.
Uh, but the health insurance companies don't. They hold the gate, pretty hard on. They're not trying to
Ah,
find out how much money they can spend, and
okay.
so it can be a little bit more restrictive. And also, I see a lot of care providers, doctors and nurses. They like when people are in a Medicare supplement plan with original Medicare as well, because they
Hmm.
don't have to fight so much to get their money, to get paid, right?
I see. Hmm.
And Uncle Sam is a bit more liberal when it comes to services,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like convalescent facilities, like post-acute care, things like that.
Okay. Not necessarily long-term care, nursing home, sort of, or but just more
Correct.
after
No,
procedures.
yeah, right. Long-term care is not a part of original Medicare.
Okay.
However, if they are in a care facility, some of the services provided in there would be covered under Medicare.
Interesting.
So here's an example, and
Yeah.
this is hyperbole, right? But
Hmm.
if you have original Medicare with a supplement, right?
Yep.
Let's say you go over to Sparrow Hospital, and they're like, well, sorry, whatever you got, that's going to take you out, right? There's nothing you can
Yep.
do about it. And you're like, you want a second opinion, right? And so
Hmm. Hmm.
you want to go down to Cleveland Clinic, right? Well, you
Yeah.
just walk down. You go down to Cleveland Clinic. You don't have to ask anybody's permission, and you got your Medicare card. And you say,
Sure.
check me out. On a Medicare Advantage plan, if Cleveland Clinic is not in network, well, they might not give you a pre-authorization to do that, right? So you need pre-authorizations for services on original or on a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay.
So those are some of the differences. The upside of a Medicare, so that's the downside of Medicare, and everybody loves to talk about the downsides of Medicare Advantage. There's not a one size fits all, right?
Yep.
The upside of a Medicare Advantage plan is it doesn't cost anything extra a month.
Okay.
It comes with a lot of extras in it. You can get dental coverage, dental, vision, hearing, gym memberships. There's over the counter, like they give you free money towards stuff that you can buy in the medical section at Walmart or Walgreens or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yep.
So they try to make their plans very attractive, and they try to keep their people healthy.
Yeah.
Again, these are managed care plans, so you see people going to their primary doctor more. You see them getting their annual services more and more on these plans because they're being reminded and encouraged to stay healthy.
Yep.
Whereas, on a supplement plan, people sometimes don't go to the doctor until they get sick.
Yeah.
It's a lot more self-directed. There's good sides and there's good, bad, need in
Yeah.
each.
So you mentioned it doesn't necessarily cover the long-term care, because that is a question that we come up with. Another one of the biggest, or along with that, we talk about healthcare as one of the biggest expenses in retirement, if not the biggest.
Yeah.
And so I talk to our young clients about an HSA, get that going. Even if you don't use it, we can invest it and grow, and you'll definitely use it in retirement because healthcare is one of the biggest costs in retirement. How does an HSA come into play? Do you know if somebody has an HSA from working, $100,000 in it sometimes, can they use that towards anything, towards premiums, towards costs still in retirement? You ever see that?
Yes. Now, I believe those HSA dollars can be used to pay premiums for supplements and services. So, after a certain point, or after they get on Medicare, they can't keep contributing to their HSA,
Right.
but now they can use that to pay for premiums and services.
What about hospice? I've heard that. Is Medicare cover hospice? Do you know?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Hospice is a part of original Medicare,
Hmm.
and interestingly, like when somebody is on a Medicare Advantage plan, they go on to hospice. That's one
Mhm.
of the only times when original Medicare steps in to pay when somebody is on a Medicare Advantage
Oh,
plan.
interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
And so what would be, you clearly know a lot about this. What would your role be in all this? Why have a David walking around with this kind of knowledge in his head?
Right, exactly. And that's exactly why, because I do have this kind of knowledge in my head. Most people don't know that they can work with somebody who's knowledgeable and local.
Hmm.
And if I'm trying to save the world, I'm trying to save the world from the Joe Namaths and Jimmy Walkers and Bill Shatners, who have these Medicare commercials on TV. And I want to give somebody a local face-to-face person they can sit down with and talk to. What I
Okay.
find is that people's questions come up in real time, not when they're under the gun on the phone trying to be sold a plan.
Yep.
And so we're going to take the time to sit down and talk about somebody's whole plan. What do you need? What are your goals? And really, there's when it boils down to it, it's a pretty easy uh, it's a pretty easy decision. There's
Hmm.
you can go one of two ways, either Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement plan, right?
Sure. Yep.
But beyond that, I offer service to my clients who,
Okay.
especially there's a lot more service with Medicare Advantage for me than there is for a supplement. I have
Yep.
people call me all the time. Hey, how much is this service going to cost me? I'm about ready to go in and get a shoulder surgery.
Okay.
How much should that cost me? And I'll look
Yeah.
it up for them. Oh, that's $250. It's a hundred
Okay.
bucks if you go to a surgery center.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so I offer those kinds of services as well. A lot of times people have hiccups with their dental coverage or, whatever it may be. They
Yep.
can call my office and we can get those things resolved usually.
And they don't pay out of pocket for this kind of service.
For me, no, no.
It's nice.
I get paid when I help somebody enroll in
Hmm.
in a plan, and
Hmm.
then the plan pays me. And the reason they pay me and every other person who's in this line of business, including the TV commercials,
Yep.
is to give these people service. I'm kind of passionate about this because, if you call into one of these 800 lines or get your plan over the phone, that's the
Yep.
last time you're gonna speak to that person.
Sure.
And we have been paying into this system all of our lives. We deserve good service.
Hmm.
So it kind of it gets my blood boiling that you know that people don't know that they can get good local service and they've got somebody to call when they have questions.
Sure. Makes sense. So,
Mhm.
if somebody listening to this happens to be needing somebody like you, how do they get a hold of you?
Just give me a call at my office. It's 517-300-2101.
Mhm.
I'm right here on the west side of Lansing. And if you draw maybe a 20, 25 or 30-mile circle around Lansing, that's about as far as it makes sense for me to go and
Mhm.
give service. So say out to Owasso, down to Jackson, out to almost Lowell, say Ionia, and up to
Mhm.
St. John's. That's kind of like the circle around Lansing that I will go to, or it
Okay.
makes sense for people to come to my office as well.
Sure. You ever have people out of those areas that will talk with Zoom or anything like that that just happen to get referred to you or anything?
Yes, I will do phone and Zoom consultations. I've got lots of clients in northern Michigan, western Michigan as well.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, we do a lot of this. We do a lot of zooming and a lot of talking over the phone.
Is this a state by state thing then? So somebody wants to find somebody in their own state typically?
I think so. I
Hmm.
think you should find somebody local. Every Medicare beneficiary deserves to have the help of a knowledgeable local broker.
Sure.
I solidly believe that. And so I'm not, I mean, although I'm licensed in a couple other states, the only reason is because some of my clients have moved.
Okay.
I am focused on Michigan and specifically right here in mid Michigan. Um,
Perfect.
there's only one of me, so
Well, that helps me and our clients. So good there. Well, cool. Man, that was super educational and beneficial. This is a topic that we never get information on, but I was just thinking we need to have an episode on this and really get up to speed on this and just prepared, even though it may not be something that we have to deal with in the near future. this helps. And even as I was saying, when we think ahead of what healthcare costs might be in retirement, no matter what age we are, this is a huge financial impact and a cost that really can wipe you out at any age. Any kind of healthcare event, anything like that can be catastrophic, both physically and financially. And so thinking through the most cost-effective ways to do this, the most efficient ways to do this, and the most comprehensive ways to protect yourself. We talk about that all the time. So this is good. And
Yeah,
super glad we had this conversation, David.
yeah, me too, John. Yeah. Appreciate you having me on and let me talk about Medicare. I do this, all day long, and yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about. So thank you.
Well, good. And we love having different topics and keeping it interesting and changing it up. So we'll talk next time.
Yes, sir.
All right. And to everybody else, thanks for listening. Be sure to get onto all of the podcast platforms on which you're listening to this, rate it and review it and share it. Tell a friend. If you care, you'll share. And we'll definitely put some snippets of this on our TikTok and Instagram as well. So if you made it to the end, then you've made it to the end. But if you want to review some of this stuff in real quick 2-3 minute pieces, then check us out on Instagram and TikTok as well. We'll see you next time.